right after the record got released, G-Rap came to me and was like, yo, Biz Mark wants to sign you. And I was like, stop playing. He was like, no. He came to me and he was like, yo, who's that Kappa rapper guy? I need him. I want to sign him. And then other people would say the same thing, like, yo, who is that dude? I think it was just the fact that I was on the G-Rap record, you know, that, who was that? I need to get him. And everybody was coming at me, but I didn't have any interest in signing anything at the moment. Even LL was, you know, we were in his crib. He was trying to get me a deal and stuff. But
right.
I just kept moving.
Right. During that Wanted Dead or Alive album, can you talk about some of your favorite tours or shows that you were a part of during that time?
Apollo was probably the nicest, the most engaging show. It was a 2-show setup. Got to see Ice Cube for his very first show as a solo artist. And I mean, they killed it. Just the stage props. And Chuck D was out there, you know. It was inspiring. And I know when we were setting up, DJ Scratch and Clark Kent were standing behind the curtain. And I had a black hoodie on. And they didn't know who I was at the time. And I'm looking, I see them behind the curtain. Scratch was on his knees. And I was like, oh, wow, okay. So I just went crazy. I just started going ballistic on the turntables while we were rehearsing and stuff. And dudes was just like, holy crap. And, you know, did the show. The show was good. And later on, I hooked up with a brother of mine, my man Lee Diamonds, he worked with Ty Fife. They were cousins, producing and so forth. And working with Teddy Riley. He was a programmer. And we were talking about that one day. And I saw him. He was like, yo, I saw you at the Apollo. And I was like, what do you mean you saw me at the Apollo? And he went through the whole routine. Like, he told me everything I did. I was like, whoa, that's crazy. I didn't realize people knew. He's like, yeah, LL was there too. LL saw you. But LL didn't know I was Dr. Butcher. I never told him. So he has no clue. Only as of last year did LL find out I was Dr. Butcher. I never told him at any point in time of our relationship. He never knew. And somebody else told him. I think Mr. C might have told him because he called me, Dr. Butcher, what up, Dr. Butcher? And it was like really hilarious, dude, because I was like, what are you talking about, dude? You know, and he was just joking because he knew I never said nothing to him. I never told him. So it was pretty funny.
Right. After that Wanted Dead or Alive album, is this when you started getting into production?
Yes. Polo pushed that and Large pushed that. So once the project was done, a Wanted Dead or Alive remix was the very last song we did. And I think I was instrumental in kind of pulling out records and finding things for that remix. You'll hear a lot of back scratching in that record, a lot of stuff going on in that remix. And, you know, I was just coming up with a lot of ideas. It was only me, Large, and G-Rap in the studio that night. And the ideas was just coming, flowing for all of us. And we did it really fast. And it was like, yo, you need to get into production here. You have a really good ear. And I didn't realize it at the time, but the things I would pick was always in pitch. And I didn't know that, you know, and I think that's what certain people were telling me, like, you know, you don't understand something, but you have a natural pitch and you can hear things that a lot of people just pick random records to scratch or to, you know, throw in things, and you don't do that. Like, you sit there searching until it's right, and it's always in key. And I was like, well, okay. And so Large gave me one of his SPs, let me hold one, wrote instructions, and I just started from there. And, you know, things just bloomed, and God looked out for me.
No doubt. Now, were you around at all for Breaking Atoms from Main Source?
That all happened at the same time. While we would do Wanted Dead or Alive, we would leave the studio, go to a nearby studio. Large was working on Breaking Atoms at the same time. So he was learning how to produce. And, you know, it was helping him because then we would go record shopping. We would go hang out with Pete Rock and things like that, and then head to the studio. His ideas were just flowing. Being around somebody like a G-Rap made him step his lyrical game up as well. Nas would come to the studio. Premier was always hanging in the studio with us. They were new. Premier had just moved to New York, and he and I became really close. So I would invite him to the studio every day, and he would just sit there. Nas wasn't signed. He was like a nobody, but he was so cool. He would just sit with me too, and we would just, you know, I would always carry like religious books. Dr. Miles Monroe, Releasing Your Potential. He had a series of books, and I was always in there reading books, and I think that intrigued Nas. And he's like, yo, man, you got all these gangsters, all these Brooklyn cats in here, and y'all reading books with the Bible? Like, that doesn't concern you? I was like, nah, no one's doing anything to me. And so he would just sit there, and we would just build, man. And he's like, yo, you're going to be my DJ when I get on. But later on, when him and Jay-Z got into the riff, I was going to DJ for him. And he talked to me. He said, you know, he wanted me at that time, but his hood was pushing LES on him. So he just ran with LES. But he said, yo, I never forgot you, bro. Like, he was always my first choice. And so, you know, things was just cool. Man, I was just happy to see everybody flourish in their career. You know what I'm saying? So we're all good, man. We're all brothers and we're all tight. I love all them dudes.
Right. How did it feel when Large Pro gave you a shout out on just hanging out?
It was great because the reason he did that, bro, is because if you look on the back of like Wanted Dead or Alive and a lot of things we did, we never got credit. People knew Large Professor produced it, but there's no, you can't track and trace it, you know, other than his voice on the record and things like that. I would do scratches and never get anything. I might get paid, but there was never Dr. Butcher scratched on his record. So he did that. So it's like everyone's gonna know it's Drew, aka Dr. Bush from Corona. Like he specifically did that for that reason because it was like disheartening. We're spending, you know, obscene amount of hours in the studio to 7 in the morning. I'm driving him to school, leaving him, going home, taking a shower, changing clothes, and going to college, and then doing the same thing, go everywhere, every day, going to school, going to work, going to the studio, and not to get any credit, not to get paid for it. Yeah, it was like a punch in the gut. You know what I'm saying? You kind of learn the business really, really fast. But it is what it is.
All right. 92 rolls around. Did you do any work on Cool G Rap and Polo's Live and Let Die?
It started out that way. So my uncle had passed away, and he was an avid record collector. He was probably the first DJ I ever met. And he left me his whole collection. It was probably 30, 40 crates of records, dude. Like Skull Snaps, all these rare hip-hop gems were in his collection. And I was like, Large, look at this. And he was like, whoa. So Large was busy. He couldn't do G-Rap's project, but he had a cat, my man Naughty Shorts. And I brought the records to his house. G-Rap purchased Marley Marl's setup, like what he used to record the Bridges Over and not Wanted Dead or Alive, but the first album, G-Rap's first album. He had that setup in his house. And he was like, yo, I'm going to just work in the crib before I go to the studio. We get all the ideas down. So I was like, yo, I just got a bunch of records. I inherited some records from my uncle, and I brought the whole collection over there. And then I said, yo, Juju and Les was starting to produce. And I called Juju. I was like, yo, how would you like to work on Cool G Rap's next album? And he was like, are you serious? I was like, come on, come with me. Bring some records. Him and Les came by. G-Rap had some stuff started. They started bringing things over and putting stuff together. Man, that project was sounding incredible, dude. Like, it was scary incredible. And, you know, everyone that was hearing was like, yo, wait until you hear this next album. In the midst of that, somehow G-Rap got in contact with Dr. Dre. And Dre, they agreed to go to Cali to record. So we had probably 8 to 10 songs recorded already. The Great Train Robbery and others and stuff. He took all that, went to Cali, him and Polo. And in the midst of that, he went to a mall to go shopping. He wanted to get some new gear and ran into Mike Concepcion. And somebody in the mall saw them talking and went back and told Dre, yo, I just saw G-Rap in the mall with Mike Concepcion. And apparently Dre had some beef with them at the time. And he freaked out, and G-Rap is out there in the hotel calling him like, yo, bro, let me know I'm here when we're going to work. Dre thought it was a setup, so he never returned any of the calls. G then again goes to a mall and meets, Dre's cousin. I forget his name, talking about Ice Cube's producer, DJ. And so, not Pooh, the shorter dude. What was his name, man? Yes. Yeah. He met him, and he was like, yo, G, I can, me and Dre are cousins, but I can do the project. And so he was like, let's do it. And then, he was great at doing the interludes and stuff. He can make his interludes sound Dre-esque, but not the tracks, because he was using the SP1200, and he would detune all the sounds to get that metallic ring, and I hated that sound. And he took all of the stuff that we had done and redid it. He had musicians come in, replay the samples and things like that. But it was too California-based. You know what I'm saying? Like, it just didn't have that New York vibe. And Polo came back. He was angry. He was like, Butcher, man, this project sucks, man. Like, oh, my God, this is not going to work. And G was still out there. When G came back and turned it in, the label was pissed off. They was like, yo, what the fuck is this, bro? Like, we can't put this out. This is terrible. And Fly Ty, the owner of Cold Chillin', was managing the Trackmasters at the time. He brought them in to do Ill Street Blues and On the Run. And those are the 2 records that took off. You know what I'm saying? So that saved that project. But it was, it was this disheartening to the rest of us that worked on it early on. To even, you know, beating us, Juju was like, yo, what the hell, bro? Like, he had the hottest album, period. Like, that album was gonna smash everything. But, you know, I guess he was so consumed with NWA and Dr. Dre and all these people at the time, like, he really, really, really got into that gangster rap stuff. In his sessions, he would stop his own stuff and just listen to them for like hours. And he just had to go out there and work with Dre, you know, which is all good. But
right.
you learn, like, yo, you got to stay in your zone, bro. It's okay to admire people, you know, but stay in your zone. You know what I'm saying? He loved the Ghetto Boys just like that. The same thing. He loved, I mean, those were his favorite, NWA and Ghetto Boys were his favorite artists, you know, and he was like, I love these dudes. I'm like, great, they love you, but you got to stay in your zone. You got to still be G-Rap, you know, and I think that was a lesson learned for him.
Right.
Yeah, it was crazy.
With LL for 14 Shots to the Dome.
So I was leaving work one day, and me and one of the X-Men, a cat named C4, he was a really dope DJ. He had just got an EPS sampler, and he was like, yo, come over, man, let's play around and start, you know, trying to learn this thing together. So I headed to it. It was on Farmers Boulevard. He lived right on Farmers Boulevard, and when I got off the bus, LL was shooting a video for Cookies in a Plastic Bag. And we hadn't seen each other probably in like 3 years. And I was like, yo, and he went crazy. And he's like, yo, where you going? I'm filming a video right now, but where you going? And I was like, right across the street, that house right there. I'll be right there. Just come ring the bell, you know? And he did. And so me and my man in the basement, the bell rings. I was like, yo, Ford, that's LL Cool J. Like, go let him in. And he looks at me, he's like, what? I said, that's LL, you know, go let him in. And he's bugging, like, dude, stop playing. And he goes to his door, and I was just standing there like, yo, is Drew here? And he's like, yeah, he's here. You know, and he come in and he heard the track we were working on, and immediately he just started vibing, like, yo, this is crazy. And he's like, yo, got a pen. He just started writing. And then we were sitting there, and he's like, yo, you know what will work with this is JDL's verse. Well, JDL would always say, like, I'm the L baby, the L baby from the Cold Crush Brothers. And we were saying that to the track. And he was like, yo, this is a single. And he really started pinning up. And he was like, yo, we're going to record this tomorrow. And I was like, all right, let's do it. You know, we stayed and hung out for a little while. Then he broke out. And my dude, he was just bugging. He's like, what just happened here, dude? I said, LL just took a track. We're going to get some money. We're going to go record tomorrow. And he said, yo, get your attorneys involved. And we're like, attorneys? We don't have anything, you know, and had to find an attorney real fast. And we hired Kirby Sims. And he just took it over from there. We went in the studio the next night and recorded the song. You know, I brought the X-Men, I had all those guys with me just so they could meet LL. It was a big thing for them, Fat Man Scoop and all of them. So it was pretty cool, man. We recorded it, but he didn't use the track. The Wu-Tang Clan came out right around the same time he released that album, and they had that dirty sound. L, because QD3 produced the album, you know, playing music, everything was crystal clean. But L called me. He was like, yo, I love the track, Drew, but I don't feel like it sits in the rest of the project. Like, it's grimy, it's underground. The project is clean and pristine, and I'm nervous. I was like, bro, do what you got to do. He said no. So check this out. I talked to QD3. He agreed to remix it, and you guys are going to split the points, and you're going to be paid for everything. You're still going to get your credit. I said, that's all great. Thank you. You know what I'm saying? He didn't have to do that. He did it. And the project got released, and at the same time, our version of the record got released in the streets in Queens. And so when it came, everybody was driving around Jamaica Avenue blasting our version of the record because Wu came out and at the same type of vibe. And it was like, yo, L's new joint is crazy, but it wasn't on the album. You know, so I think he kind of regret, like, I should have left that. But, you know, he second-guessed himself. But I understand why. You know, he made a good decision, but he had no idea that music was going to shift to this more underground, lo-fi style music. And it did, you know what I'm saying? But it helped us. It was a good thing.
Right. Speaking of underground, you linked with the Artifacts around 93, 94. Can you take us back to that, how you guys got together?
Yes. I knew my man Rob Tulo was the A&R at Big Beat Records Atlantic. And I was teaching Rob Tulo how to do tracks on SP12 and how to make beats. And he called me one day. The project had closed. And he was like, yo, Butcher, Tame and them, they heard this track on your tape. They desperately want it. Can you lay it? I was like, yeah. What time? When? He said, today, now. I packed up, went and did it. And he said, the only thing is the project is closed. There's no money left. And I was like, that's not a problem. I'm still going to do it. So I just knocked it out for them, dude, and it was all good. Things like they're gonna bring you on the next project. It didn't happen, not because of that. I was just busy. But that was like my introduction, man. And I was just humble because I had just started doing tracks. And so to have someone say they wanted my music, I was like, I don't care, let's go. And Reef was my man, you know. So right after that, he was going around with my beat tape, and he went to a seminar in Washington. Him, DJ Premier, and a music supervisor named Barry Cole. And during the whole ride, he was like, Butcher, Premier, when he found out those were your music, that was your tracks, he just played them the whole ride there and back. And so Barry Cole was like, yo, who's that Dr. Butcher guy? Premier kept playing his music. He said, that's my man. He's like, yo, I need to get in contact with him. I want his music for a new Spike Lee movie called New Jersey Drive. They were being produced by Nick Gomez. And he hooked me up with him, and the dude was like, yo, we want like 5 or 6 of your tracks for the movie. And once again, I was like, what? You know, but they were paying, you know, and I got to sit in with Spike Lee as they edited the movie and things like that. So it was great. Let me turn some lighting on, dude. It's getting dark. Hold on real quick.